It's the Mega Man, and nah, that doesn't stand for hate. We're just saying it's time for education to be great.
Hello everyone, this is Make Education Great Again. I'm your host Chris Morris. Let's get straight into it today. So, white language supremacy, how grading writing quality is now apparently racist. That's the topic of what we're going to discuss today, and I have a lot to get into on this subject. For me personally, as a black man who tries to use proper diction at times, I have a lot to speak on this subject from my own experiences, so I thought I'd share them on today's broadcast. But before I do that, let's get straight into today's article, because this comes from us, once again, from the Daily Wire, and apparently an Arizona State dean is basically taking this position at the college. What is college becoming at this point, other than an indoctrination center? I mean, parents, if you're out there, I'm just going to go ahead and just say you are definitely playing, as Charlie Cook put it once, Russian roulette with your kids' values when you send them off to college at this point. You know, they send them out as a good Christian person who wants to get education, and they might come back as a different sex, confused about whether or not there are more than two genders, and, America being fundamentally racist at this point. And while you're at it, they're not going to learn how to speak English properly in the English departments, according to what we're hearing from Arizona State's dean. Listen to this. Grading writing based on quality is racist. Let me come on screen just a little bit here. I want to look into my viewers' eyes for a minute here as I read this travesty of news. Look at this. Promotes white language supremacy. I'm not making this up. White language supremacy. I have so much to talk about on this subject, guys. First off, I can't even read the article because I got to go ahead and go off a little bit. What in the world is white language supremacy? I thought we all spoke quote unquote white language, because I thought in America the key national language was English. It's called English. It's called English. It's English. It's called English. English. I'm stuck because it's English. It's not white language, and I have so much to talk about because to my other, black and brown brothers and sisters, my whole life, I remember at certain points being told, oh, why are you talking white? Why are you speaking white? It's not speaking white. It's speaking English. So if you got another language that actually exists, from some ancestral line that you can enlighten me on that I'm supposed to be speaking, please help me know what that is. But in America, like in Britain, I thought we spoke English. It's not white language supremacy. So I had to get that off my chest real fast. I had to get that off my chest. Let's go back to the article, because this is just, it's appalling. But, what do you expect at this point? So check this out. An Arizona State University associate dean penned a 358-page book detailing how grading students' writing is a form of, here we go again, the same old string on the one-string guitar they have, racism and white supremacy. Grading students' writing is racist. In a book titled Labor-Based Grading Contracts, Building Equity and Inclusion in the Compassionate Writing, classroom, I can't even read it without getting disgusted. Professor Aswal, I don't know how to say his name, encourages teachers to ditch grading for a labor-based grading system wherein students earn grades based on their effort. The quality of students' writing would not help or hinder their course grade. All right, so let's read a little bit more, then I'm going to talk about it. The book focuses on one kind of grading contract, one that calculates final course grades purely by the labor students complete, not by any judgments of the quality of their writing. While the qualities of student writing is still at the center of the classroom and feedback, it has no bearing on the course grade. Interesting. So he doesn't want their grade attached to the quality of their writing. Near the beginning of the document, the author admits that the theory, labor-based grading, is rooted in critical, guess what, race theory. Critical race theory is the idea, of course, we talked about this many times, that America is rooted in racism, as are the systems of modern American society. Critical race theory contributed to his idea that ranking things is a system rooted in racism. Why? Why is that a system rooted in racism, ranking things? I mean, if that's the case, then having any professional sport or college sport is a racist thing, because you rank who won and who lost. You rank first place, second place. You can't have the Olympics anymore because that's rooted in racism. Like, what are we talking about? Anyway, go ahead. I gotta go ahead. Because grading is a form of ranking, which everybody does, and that's how the world works, and I hate to break it to you, but that's just it. Because grading is a form of ranking, grading must also be a racist idea. This makes no sense, people. At what point did they make the leap that if you rank something, that it's racist? What logic just took place there? because we've lost it at this point. But go ahead. In his book, dubbed Grading and the Educational System, Writing Racist for the Connection Rank. Oh my God. Ranking is part of a much longer racist and white supremacist tradition in Western intellectual history. We're just so educated, we're more morons at this point. Ranking has been deeply embedded in racist thinking, discourses, and logics, mainly because it has been deployed as a way to justify a number of racist, empirical, and colonial projects over the past 400 years. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me just get in on, let me go ahead and talk to you guys on this. So here's the article. Y'all can check it out in the description. But I want to talk for a minute about this whole idea because you're starting to see it come out more and more. You're starting to see the true heart of Democrats. They can't possibly think of black and brown people any lower than they currently do. How do I know this? Because they lower the bar for us so despicably low that they must innately think that we are morons and incapable. I mean, Biden said it himself. What did he say? Well, black people can't figure out how to use the internet. Really? I use the internet all the time. And apparently we can't do it. We need help. We can't get internet access because we can't figure out how to pick up the phone and call Comcast or call whoever you use and figure out how to get an internet established at your house. We can't do that. This is how little they think of us. And that's, to me, why Donald Trump was the blackest president there ever was, baby. He was more black than Obama, okay? Because he was one person who didn't give a crap what color you looked at, and he looked at you man to man, and he said, hey, we can all play by the same rules, and you're capable of winning if you do the rules, and you play by the rules. Law and order. That's what Donald Trump did. That's how I saw it, and that's how I felt. Now, to speak about this subject of language, as a black person, I'm going to speak on this because I'm going to just go ahead and tell you guys. I'm going to tick off a certain percentage of liberals, a certain percentage of black people, a certain percentage of just Americans, because I'm going to say what I believe to be true. And I really be interested to see how I'm wrong on this in the comments if you guys disagree with me. I really am. But I've been called, and I'm going to be called Coon. I'm going to be called Uncle Tom. I'm going to be called, you know, all the little egg face. I got called that last week. I don't care because that is somebody's weak excuse, weak tactic for shaming, and I don't know what it is, name calling somebody who you can't keep up with mentally, I guess. I don't know what it is, but you've got to learn, and as a people, and I guess it's our fault, I don't know, y'all can help me figure this out, but we've got to stop calling it white language supremacy. It's English. And we have to start speaking English. Now, I think there's a little bit of nuance to why in the black culture, you know, a lot of times there's a slang, a way we speak to each other, that it's almost like a rebellion against white culture because, okay, y'all do it this way, so we're going to do it this way. And it's almost like a rebellious thing because, you know, if you're not going to accept us, then we're going to just have our own thing. That's kind of embedded, I think, in the fabric and the culture of African Americans. But what good is it really doing us when it's to a point where we don't have a grasp of the actual, phonetically speaking, we don't have a grasp on the English language enough to be able to put a coherent sentence together and write it on paper, and therefore the dean at colleges thinks now, oh, we have to lower the bar. I don't like the smell of it. And so I just want to talk about something practically speaking. Speak correct English. And nobody wants to say this. Nobody wants to say this, but I'm going to say it because I think it's true. And most people on here who are white, you probably have thought it and you just won't say it. And I don't blame you for not saying it because you will get attacked to no end if you did. But people, especially white culture, but most people, professional people, look down and don't think you are as intelligent. There's a direct tie to the way that you speak and the intelligence that people perceive that you have. I'm going to say it again. There's a direct correlation between the way that you speak and the intelligence that people perceive that you possess. It's just facts. If you don't know that, then go back and look at the classic film My Fair Lady. That was the whole premise of the movie. That was the whole point of the movie. You had this person, she wasn't black, she was a white person who spoke with a Cockney accent, you know, "Hi, governor," you know, it was basically their form of broken English in Britain. And he was talking, there was a professor, you know, his professor was like, speak better. This professor was like, speak worse and don't get held accountable for it. It sounds like totally different professors. But that professor pretty much spent the whole movie training her how to speak properly, how to use proper diction. And guess what? To the degree that she was able to speak properly, she was basically accepted in the upper echelon of society, and her economic situation changed It completely changed by the end of the movie, and it was almost a direct correlation to how she spoke and how her current situation is. Now, I'm going to get in big trouble for saying that. I can already tell, because people don't want to change, and people are going to attack and malign you, but this is what we're dealing with. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to tell you another story. So I had a friend of mine, and I don't know why I've always been like somewhat fascinated with like not African-American, but black British people. So there's a friend of mine who both of our daughters took a similar ballet class, and he's a British guy, had a British accent, and he was a black British guy. He used to play soccer back in the day. Anyway, we were connecting. So he works in a school. He works for he's like a dean at this grade school, and he was working his tail off to try to get this kid who was kind of from a rough background, trying to get him a job. He was about 17, 18 years old, and he realized it was at a pivotal point in his life. If he could really invest in this kid, maybe, he could make something of himself. So he busted his tail, talked to him about how it's important to dress right, look professional, and he actually arranged to get him an interview at a bank. He could have gotten the job at this bank. And so they sat down with the young man. The bank manager sat down with him for a few minutes, and at the end of the interview, he came and talked to the British gentleman who got him the job. He said, we can't hire him. And what he was really saying was he heard how he spoke, how improperly spoken his diction was, and because it was so poor, he couldn't let him represent his bank, because it was going to hurt his customer base. They weren't going to, it's going to affect people's business. You understand? When you work for an organization, you represent the business. And if, depending on what kind of job you're trying to get, if the people perceive that you don't have the competency to do the job, whether rightly or wrongly, they are going to take their business elsewhere. It affects the bottom line. So people aren't going to tell you to your face, but they might not be hiring you, or you might not be getting opportunities simply because of the way you speak. People subconsciously think to themselves, he must not be that smart. He can't even speak his own language. Okay? Now, I'm probably going to take a whole lot of flack for this. I don't care. I've taken flack for this my whole life. I remember being in 7th grade, and I was working with I was at a basketball camp. I love basketball. I was at this all-star level middle school camp, and I remember sitting with this one kid, and we were just talking about, what do you want to get to eat, tonight after practice or whatever. And I remember him turning and looking at me, and I remember it struck me, and I never knew what to do with it. He looked at me and goes, "Why you speak all proper?" He just cut me off and just couldn't help but just shout that out. "Why you speak all proper?" And I'm like, "Well, why do you speak so poorly?" That was kind of my initial thought, but I didn't know what I was supposed to say to him. I'm like, I don't know. I could turn around and ask him the same question. But this is a fact. This is a reality. And I know this for a fact. And, people don't mean anything by it. But even when I've spoken with white people in the past, many times one of the first things people say is like, "Whoa, he's so well-spoken." Or they'll say stuff like, "You're so well-spoken." And I know that, that's fine. I don't take offense at it at all. But just think about it. Be honest with yourself. If you heard a white person speak like I am speaking right now, you would not look at that white person and say, "Wow, you're so well-spoken, white man." Basically, they expect an African American not to speak with proper diction, and when they do speak properly, it kind of takes them off guard, and you're so well-spoken. I mean, Biden said it about Obama one time. It's the first time we had a well-spoken black man. This is true. It's a sensitive topic. I understand why people don't want to go there, because they don't want to take the blowback, and it's very uncomfortable. It's squirmish. But think about it for a second. Self-assess and think about whether or not the things that I am saying are true or not. So here's the next question. Is it the right course of action to just lower the standards of the English language that's been around for centuries to cater to one couple of ethnic groups or whatever in the name of wokeness or whatever? Is that the loving thing to do? Because I'm telling you, they still got to live in the real world. We still got to live in the real world once we get out of your pathetic excuse of a college, higher establishment, educational system. We still have to enter the real world. And when they go to interviews and they go to jobs and they get in front of the person hiring them, if they can't put two words together and speak properly, they don't have to tell them to their face, "No, you didn't get the job because of that." But they're going to think that, and they're not going to give them the job, and they'll just put on paper because of this reason, And the real reason is they can't put a person who can't speak properly in front of their customers because they don't want to lose customers. It's tied to the economics. You you are representative of the value that an institution offers its customer base. And if you jeopardize the value that they offer their customer base, whether it's for, a tattoo on your neck, or whether it's, it could be a million other reasons. But if it's, you can't speak the language properly and the customer base is going to think that your intelligence isn't competent enough to do the job, then guess what? They're not going to give you that position. And these are just the facts. The sad thing about the kid I was telling you about that got offered, or at least got that interview, is that he couldn't even listen to constructive feedback. He kept saying, well, he's not doing it because I'm black and blah. This is ridiculous. He needs to give me that job. If he doesn't do it, then that's his fault. There's no responsibility or even a sense of responsibility being taken. And I hate the way that the left is treating the black community, because they're increasingly not allowing or not even giving people the opportunity to be able to take responsibility and make a connection between their choices, what they do to work on them, and the opportunities that it affords them. It just says, oh, it's the white man's fault. It's the white man's fault. It's the white man's fault. Oh, you poor thing. You need us Democrats. That's the only logical conclusion that I can come to. But if you disagree with me, what say you in the comments? I'd love to hear about it. What do you think about this Arizona dean who's pretty much saying, hey, the grades don't really matter. We're not going to grade you based on the quality of your writing, just the amount of effort that you put into it. Now, to his point, I will say this. There is some research that is valid that talks about the amount of effort you put into something over time. If you take away the shame of, oh, am I going to get a bad score or a good score? You just stay at your craft, so to speak, and you keep putting the work in, you do get higher levels of quality over time. So if that's where he's getting at, I'm open to a second conversation. But to jump to the conclusion that, hey, we aren't going to grade based on quality whatsoever, and then to deem it racist if you do so, to me crosses the line. And to be completely honest, it's just insulting to me as a black man that you're going to patronize me that way. It just is insulting to me that you think that little of me, that you don't have the same standards for me as you do for the other guy who has a slightly lighter complexion. It's very insulting to me. When I get into the job, into the workforce, I want to know that my ability to write has value in the eyes of people who might read my writing, and therefore I have every opportunity that anybody else has. That's what I personally would like. So I want to be taught to speak and write properly. So I pray to God that that's what he's still doing, even though he's taking this position. So anyway, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts in the comments. This is very interesting to me. What do you think about what I had to say about language? Is it true? If you look into your heart of hearts, if you look at a black man and you see him speaking what you perceive to be, speaking properly, do you say, oh, wow, do you think he's more intelligent than a guy who isn't speaking properly? You don't have to go ahead and say anything about it. I understand the blowback you get in the society, but it's a question to ask yourself, because it's not always true. I know plenty of kids when I was teaching in the inner city who couldn't string two words together properly to save their life, and frankly, they were the smartest kids in the school, and that was including the teachers, because I taught them in math, and man, they could solve logarithmic functions like we talked about. They could solve any problem in their problem solving skills. They could come up with equations themselves organically, and their minds were brilliant, right? But it's not going to be perceived that way unless you learn how to speak properly. Like it or love it, like it or hate it, that's how people are. I'm just telling you the truth. So to me, you can't be loving to people unless you are also lovingly, not trying to make them feel bad, but lovingly still saying the truth, because it teaches a man to fish and not just get a fish, the whole nine. So anyway, that's really all I got to say for this video. As always, like, subscribe, share, click the notification bell for more content and analysis. If you feel so led, I'll leave a link to my PayPal, my Cash App in the description. We got lots of mega merch available at my Teespring account. Go ahead and check it out. We have more availability coming out very soon, including the cat in the new hat. We're gonna have that on T-shirts. Y'all just let me know if you want one of those, and I will definitely serve you a link in the description in the comments for sure. I love you guys. Have a blessed day, a blessed week. I'll catch you soon. Peace.
It's the Mega Man, and nah, that doesn't stand for hate. We're just saying it's time for education to be great. And if we keep on doing everything that we've been doing, it will no longer be our freedom that we're pursuing. It's now time to teach our students how to think and reason. If we don't, we'll keep on electing those guilty of treason. So listen up, as Mega Man is about to spit the truth.